So let's talk about bias and ignorance. They go hand in hand. They're like BFF, bias and ignorance. But here's the big difference. It's like bias is like the stuff I have in my head. To me, it's quite believable, right? Because it's the only thing I've ever known. It's the only thing I've ever seen. So I grew up in New York. I have a perception of the world based on how I went to school, who I went to school with, who my neighbors were, how they talk, what they look like, right? And I grew up thinking like, of course, when you're little, that's your whole world. So what would I think other than that's the whole world, right? So then when I'm in my early 20s, I go move to California. And other than the shocker of finding out that I wasn't going to be able to like parade around in my bathing suit all the time like they do on Baywatch in the middle of San Francisco, I had to learn also that people lived different ways. They thought different things. They looked at life differently than me. What kind of shit is that? And so there were a lot of things that I learned from that. And then I also went back to school. I went to a very, very small women's liberal arts college where we talked about a lot of stuff. We broke it down. And we got into it with each other, about not just the subjects at hand that everybody learns in college, but in this particular place, Rava Mills College, we talked about we talked about racism and sexism and misogyny and everything that you can't talk about now. And we just had a blast about it. I mean, we really got down and dirty, and it was uncomfortable a lot, because it takes a lot to sit through listening to someone's opinion where you're like, what is that? Like, who thinks like that, right? But I learned how to open my mind and listen to other people and to see things a different way. And for me, the best thing I can do, no matter where I am, is sit back and just watch people be people. And in specific, the beauty of living in New York and doing something like riding the subway is that you watch this melting pot of people who alternately all act the same and all act differently. And there is no generalization or stereotyping, unless, of course, there's generalization and stereotyping that I choose to see about whomever or whatever, people from the boroughs, Asian people, black people, gay people, straight people, white people, what men, women, you know what I mean, Orthodox Jewish people. Brooklyn is like a huge, huge, huge melting pot. And it has higher populations of a lot of different types of people than a lot of other places. It's highly concentrated in its diversity. And so, you just riding the subway, you just sit back and watch, your stereotypes kind of like come up in your face and then disappear and then come up in your face and disappear. And, I was having a conversation with somebody about, probably I would just call it, someone doing the right thing, and pointing to, I don't know, how would I say, like one ethnic group being, the sort of like perpetrator of not doing the right thing. And in this case, it was white people. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, is that true? I mean, is that really what it looks like in my experience? And I kind of sat back and reflected, and I thought, well, no, that's not really true. But again, so here's the deal. I can't really say if it's true or it's not true, because the fact is that now I live in a neighborhood that's probably, I would say, more white people, more Asian people. I moved out to Long Island, but when I was in Brooklyn, I was very, very much in a neighborhood that was concentrated with more Black Caribbeans. And so my subway experience was a lot of Orthodox Jewish people and Black people, and with a sprinkling of white people and other types of ethnicities. And so as I'm evaluating my world and having perceptions and having experiences, the people around me are of different ethnicities. So how can I assign characteristics to somebody when there's so many different people? And so what this person was assigning to, white people, something white people were doing, I was like, but I actually saw a lot of Black people doing that. Or I saw a lot of people from Brooklyn doing that or whatever. And it was just such a phenomenal little shocker to my head, right? Because it's just this reminder is like, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And I need to break out of those patterns of needing to bias people into like boxes and see them as such and evaluate them as such. Because as soon as I start to do that, I've had enough practice being open-minded, I see an exception. And so what I'm trying to do is look for the exceptions, right? Because I want to remove this idea that like this group is this and that group is that. And yet, you know, we all joke, that's what humor is all about. Humor is about stereotypes, right? And so we joke about the stereotypes of different people's different ways, different things, different issues. And I think that that's a real need, is to keep humor alive, to understand how different we are, and that there's a lot of ways it's really hard for us to accept each other because what people show me about themselves isn't the world I know. And then I'm like, well, you must be wrong to be that way. And I don't know. I don't think anybody's wrong. So let it be, as they say, right? Let people be who they are. But I think it's a beautiful thing to open your mind and just to choose to see things as you don't believe they are, and start to see your world change and start to see how you feel about people change. That's about it for today. Thanks for joining me.